Hello, I'm Dr. Jonas Kurniawan, a visiting scholar here at Stanford University in the Bioengineering department. I got my PhD from UC San Diego, working on wearable electronics for healthcare detections. Today, I'm joined with Dr. Kamni Vijay here, who has agreed to speak with me and shed lights on very important set of topics. She has a unique set of roles, serving in various VC-backed startups as well as public healthcare companies. So I'll let her introduce herself.
Thanks, Jonas. It's a pleasure to be here today. For me, it all began about 30 years ago when I studied as an undergraduate at Dartmouth College and learned about biochemistry. I then moved more into the world of healthcare, completing my PhD at University of California, Davis, and specifically focusing on the fields of enzymology and biochemistry. As time went on, I moved into a career that focused primarily in healthcare diagnostics, most recently serving at Becton Dickinson, leading their point-of-care diagnostics business. Today, I'm excited to serve as a scientific advisor to Defense Diagnostics, which goes by Defent in the marketplace. And at Defent, we're doing tremendous things in the area of harm reduction for the opioid crisis. We are tackling that through very innovative solutions that are targeted at focusing on today's leading killer of Americans aged 18 to 45, which is the fentanyl overdose crisis. And I'm excited to share more about that with you today.
I first learned about Defent last summer on campus, and in my opinion, they're doing something that is great, which is tackling the opioid overdose crisis. They have a unique set of skills in material science and biochemistry, which hopefully can help people test more on their drugs and reduce the accidental fentanyl overdose. I became very interested in their mission, which is to reduce accidental death through opioid, and I think that's great. So Kamni, in your opinion, how did the US get into this massive opioid mess in the first place? And is this uniquely an American problem?
Great question, Jonas. Actually, this is a North American problem that dates back 30 years. This problem is occurring not only in America, but also in Canada, particularly in British Columbia. About 30 years ago, Purdue Pharma brought into the market a drug, oxycodone, for pain management. That ushered in a new era of pain management solutions that pharma then began adopting quite rapidly. We saw many different pharma companies bring what we then thought were safe and non-addictive pain management solutions into the market, such as Norco, Vicodin, roxicodone, methadone, and others. Unfortunately, as time unfolded, we found that doctors began overprescribing these painkillers, incentivized sometimes by some of the unscrupulous practices of pharma firms. And the problem got exacerbated by the FDA not having the right measures in place to not allow for the overprescription of these pain management solutions. As a result, we began to see a vast uptick in these pain management prescriptions. Ultimately, for example, in 2012, in that year alone, we saw over 250 million prescriptions written for these pain management drugs, which is equivalent to at least one prescription per adult in the US. That was just in 1 year alone. That was back in 2012. And as we've seen time unfold even further, we've seen the contribution of further global forces in this particular pain management crisis. Global forces such as the Mexican cartel coming in with additional pain management solutions. Global forces such as China coming in to support the burgeoning growth of this market. Now, as time has gone on, we have begun to understand that these pain management solutions are in fact quite addictive and are in fact not the right solution for the patient. Fentanyl was in fact first synthesized in Belgium in 1959, and it is still used today for pain management and anesthesiology in surgeries. However, it wasn't until the mid-90s when oxycodone first came out that we started to see an abuse of these pain management solutions. Now, if we fast forward to 2020, we have begun to see multi-billion-dollar settlements pay out from a variety of sources, pharma, major drugstore retail chains, and others that were all involved in the rapid progression of the misuse of these types of pain management solutions.
In your opinion, how big of a societal problem is this in relative terms?
Well, in the 20-year period from 1997 to 2017, over 700,000 Americans died from opioid overdose. In an annual basis, we have over 70,000 deaths in America a year for this particular crisis. If we think about that, that's more than the number of people that died in the wars of Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan combined.
Wow.
Moreover, it's more than the amount of fatalities that we have from car-related accidents and other gun-related violence in any given year. That is an outstanding figure, and that's one that I do believe we can reverse.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. I didn't know that. So, why is this a problem for all Americans, not just for a select few?
Well, there's a couple of points there, and it's a good question. The first is that this problem impacts all North Americans. This is a problem that hits every demographic, from young to old, from the rich to the poor, those that are educated to uneducated, any level of society that you're in, men, women, gender. There is no bias to this particular crisis. We are seeing this crisis ubiquitous throughout our entire nation and in our entire continent. Moreover, the challenge that we see is that this drug has been historically considered to be a victimless crime because it doesn't appear to directly harm others. But that's a fallacy. There are actually several societal implications that this starts to bring up, such as public health issues, crime-related issues, and a major strain on our healthcare and legal systems. Experts have estimated that this is now a $1.5 trillion US problem. And finally, let me state this from yet another perspective. Let's take a look at the city of Chicago's fire department and emergency response system. In 2019, the fire trucks and ambulances were responding to nearly 30 emergency calls a day for related overdoses, with each trip costing roughly $1,200. That excludes the cost of the Chicago Police Department that would often accompany the fire department on these calls. Every call that was made is an opportunity where the fire department may not have been able to respond to car accidents, house fires, wildfires, gas leaks, chemical spills, water rescues, and the like. This is why prevention and harm reduction is more important than ever today.
Wow, I didn't know the extent of these problems and how it impacted all Americans. So thank you very much for bringing this to light. So why is fentanyl so dangerous, and oftentimes lethal? And how much fentanyl is actually fatal?
Good question. Well, fentanyl is actually 50 times stronger than heroin and 100 times stronger than morphine. This is why it is so lethal. Just as little as 5 to 7 grains of salt can constitute a lethal dose of fentanyl. Just that much.
Wow, that is actually really, really dangerous then. So it is very important that people know they're present in their drugs.
That's right. And here, what we want to understand is that many of the drugs that individuals use for recreational use are actually cut with fentanyl. Surprisingly, 15% of cocaine that has been seized by the Drug Enforcement Agency has been identified to be laced with fentanyl. And if we think about, more broadly speaking, all opiates, nearly 70% of all opiates have been found to be laced with fentanyl. This is a variety of drugs that we have now learned about, such as ecstasy, MDMA, mushrooms, ketamine, heroin, cocaine, as I've already mentioned. This is why it is so important for you to always test if there's a recreational drug in use to ensure that there is no illicit lacing of fentanyl in the product that the consumer is intending to consume.
Yeah, that is true actually. Good point. So, just curious, when somebody's actually overdosed on fentanyl, how are they treated?
Naloxone, which goes by Narcan as a brand name, is an opioid receptor antagonist. And specifically, it binds to opioid receptors in the brain without activating them. This action blocks or reverses the effect of opioid drugs. And some of those effects include respiratory depression, sedation, and euphoria. Narcan works quickly, often within minutes, and its effects typically last for 30 to 90 minutes. It was first administered in 1971 as an intravenous and intramuscular drug, and since 2018, it has been introduced as an intranasal spray and is now widely available over the counter. Let's talk about this in terms of an analogy. If we think about Narcan, we often think of it as a fire extinguisher. We've already ingested the substance, and now we have to extinguish the fire. Instead, what we should focus our attention on is fire detection, so that we can prevent the unintended misuse and overdose that comes from some of the illicitly laced fentanyl in recreational drugs. This ushers in the need for us to have testing strips and more effective testing to be able to do that fire detection in an effective way.
So these are some interesting points. Thank you for sharing. So why don't people actually test more? What are some of the limitations of testing?
Well, first of all, there are so many instances where test strips simply aren't available, but they should be. If we think about all of the opportunities where we could be doing testing, we think about well-intentioned students partying on campuses across the nation, travelers, families that are celebrating various events, musical festivals, concerts, bachelor parties, weekends away. There are so many instances where we should be testing. But there are many issues with traditional test strips that prevent us from having the widespread adoption of testing. For example, the level of detection of these test strips has not always been as sensitive as can be. We have an issue with false positives and false negatives that have prevented this widespread adoption. Variability between the different types of batches that we have built in the antibodies that are used in the testing and detection methodology. And very importantly, the cross-reactivity of some of the existing test strips with other drugs such as MDMA and methamphetamines. I'd like to further highlight that we have something that I like to call the chocolate chip cookie effect, where one may think that by testing one particular substance within a batch, call it one pill within a large batch of pills, that entire batch of pills is safe. And that's simply not true. If we think about a chocolate chip cookie, there may be a bite of cookie that you get that has a chocolate chip in it. There may be other bites that don't have a chocolate chip. You simply don't know by testing one small piece of that cookie whether the cookie has been laced or not. And that's why it's so important when you have an entire batch of pills to test every pill to ensure that no single pill is laced with fentanyl. I'd like to go further and say that the need for testing substances is fairly new, and it hasn't been fully adopted for even more reasons. The lacing of substances is a new fear, and testing products today aren't necessarily built around a brand that can be trusted. Users are sometimes unaware which substances are at risk, and consumers are misled to believe that pharmaceuticals that are purchased outside of a pharmacy are safe. That's in fact not true. 60% of opioids that are sold in the street can be laced with various opioids. And so, brand trust is important. We've identified this during COVID, where we've seen consumers opt for very specific brands, just as in the pregnancy testing market, where we've seen consumers that have opted for specific brands that they know and that they trust that can give them an accurate result.
This is Defent, a qualitative test strips for fentanyl detections that is intended for harm reduction purposes. They have the highest sensitivity in the market, making it the most reliable and therefore the only brand we should trust. So Kamni, I understand Defent has two products, and this product seems to be addressing the fentanyl testing issues. Can you tell me more about them and what makes them so different compared to other brands out there?
So let's start by talking about the Defent Fentanyl Test Strip Kit. This kit includes everything that you need to do 5 fentanyl tests all in one box, including, as we see on the product box, 5 test strips, 5 microscopes for your samples, 1 measuring cup, and a quick start guide. Everything is included within this test kit, and on the back of each test kit, you will find a QR code. And this QR code allows the user to scan and anonymously upload their result to a portal that will allow us to identify where a positive test result came from and be able to have surveillance around where positive tests are coming through. In addition to this product, we also have Defent ONE. This is a first of its kind, all-in-one fentanyl detection device. This device allows for an easy-to-use test to be conducted for the monitoring of fentanyl in your substances. So let me show you how to use this. We start by removing the scoop from the back of the device. Inside, what you will see is a small cavity for us to scoop the substance that we're looking to test. We insert the scoop with the substance into the device, close it, then we shake it for at least 3 seconds. Make sure that everything is mixed well.
Yeah.
Hold the device upright, pull this pin out, and then to activate the reaction, we close the device like this, and we wait 3 minutes to see the result.
Oh, so it's really simple. It's like a COVID test, basically.
Exactly.
But you can use it on the go.
So I'd like to call to your attention a couple of features of this device. The first, if we look on the side, it shares with us very easily how we are to interpret our test results. In this case, if you have 2 lines appear in the window, that means you have a negative result, and that's good. That means there is no fentanyl detected, and we have the safety of knowing that a control was also run. The other feature of this device is that we have a QR code on the back. This is an optional feature for users to upload a positive result so that we can more broadly understand where we are starting to see positive results come from.
Thank you for the demo. That was cool. Can you tell me why Defent product is so special?
Absolutely. The Defent product has the highest sensitivity on the market. What does that mean? We have a level of sensitivity of detection that is unparalleled. We can detect as little as 15 nanograms per milliliter of substance, which is the best that the industry has seen so far. In addition, this product, unlike anything else that has come before it, does not have cross-reactivity to other drugs that you may find in the recreational drugs that you're using or testing, such as MDMA and methamphetamines. This particular product will distinguish between those and only give you a positive result if there is indeed fentanyl being laced in your substance. And third, this is the most comprehensive fentanyl test product on the market because we are able to detect with this product more than 150 different analogs of fentanyl with this one test, whereas many of the other products that have come before it have only been capable of detecting a handful of those analogs. This device has undergone rigorous testing. Let me explain. First of all, we conducted numerous studies focused on how to understand the user's needs when doing a test like this one. We went through a human-centered design approach and tested a variety of prototypes versus the traditional test strips that existed today to deeply understand how our consumers would be able to run a test in a foolproof manner and in a manner that would be conducive to continuing to do repeated testing. For the last year and a half, we've iterated through numerous prototypes to get to the final design that we have today, which we believe is the most robust and stable design to be able to withstand a variety of environmental conditions that our users may encounter when doing the test. And finally, this product is patent protected and has been engineered by a variety of designers that have come together through a multidisciplinary approach to bring forward the most innovative product of its kind.
Wow, that is really disruptive. Really easy to use, actually, the Defent ONE. And, I can avoid making the most commonly made missteps while doing fentanyl testing, such as, with the measurement, the mixing, and whatnot. Hopefully, with this Defent ONE product, we can increase the prevalence of fentanyl testing and we can end this opioid epidemic together. Since you've advised Congress in the past, especially with relations to COVID pandemic, what advice do you have for these newly elected officials and representatives to help possibly end this longest public health emergency, which is the fentanyl opioid overdose?
Yeah, good question, Jonas. So What we need to do is work together with our elected officials and really start to unlock the funds that have been put towards this epidemic and help support the widespread adoption of testing at the local and state level. This is an area where we can hold hands together and partner to ensure that we are getting the right types of testing products into the right hands at the right moment when they need to be used. We want to be able to show that our Defent products can be shared across various organizations in support with organizations that are government funded and government sponsored. And we want to be able to enable consumers to have a test that really has key attributes that would support the widespread adoption of testing, such as availability, ensuring that we have access to tests at all points where consumers may look to find a test such as this. Accuracy, making sure that our product is available and given the low sensitivity of detection, which is the most sensitive detection product on the market, to be able to give accurate test results every time to our consumers. And finally, making sure that the market has products that are easy to use and that are foolproof in the hands of users so that they would be able to conduct the test and get a result in a simple, straightforward manner and be assured of their results.
Kamni, thank you so much for spending your time with me today, educating me on this opioid epidemic related stuff and how Defent plays its role in reducing public health danger. So hopefully together, there's going to be an increase in prevalence of fentanyl testing, and we can help make the society a safer place. Thank you for your time.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Jonas.
Thank you.